Alright, in this video, we're going to go ahead and do our baby Yoda drawing. Alright, so get your pencil ready, and then you can go ahead and begin to draw once you have your supplies ready. And the first thing we're gonna do is use just basic shapes, like the ears of Yoda are triangular as they extend outward off of both sides of Yoda has like a oval face, but it's kind of more of a rectangular oval face. And then his ears extend out, and there are these triangles kind of like off the side of his head here. Really large cheeks that are circular, and then he has a straight mouth here. Okay, again, his ears extend off, and they're really large triangles. And the ears folded over. And the inner ear is like a soft pink right in here. And of course he has the wrinkles and the little hair that's right here at the top of his head. But before we even do that, let's just make sure we have symmetry. And what's done on one side is done to the other. And this extends. And then downward. Over to his little tiny face. And his neck. This is his little neck area. That extends. Or his little chin is down here too. And he has a tiny little nose. So if you're drawing like a face, you can always have this circle and then the face. And then you know, of course, the T that comes across the circle when you're drawing a face. And the eyes sit right here. And then you have, of course, the whole eye is black, but he does have the pupils here. And then a little reflection over here inside the eye. But there's an outer area here that's really dark. Well, actually, this part in here is really dark. Okay, and this area is like this. This is the indentation of the lid back here. And then, of course, the wrinkly parts of his face. And then he's going to have another indentation over this eye. And let's get the inner eye here. reflection over here. Let me darken this in. And then, just like I did for the other, I'm going to do the same over here. You can smudge it here, because ultimately this is dark. It's just that there's some areas that are darker and some areas lighter than the others. But this area is dark right over here. And let's continue to put the wrinkles on his forehead here. And then this. Shade in his face. Of course he's green, but you can still shade in, you know, where you need to. And then add the little tiny hairs that are here at the top. Over here on this triangle, we can close the ears. The ear folds over, and then put on, you know, shade in this part of the ear as well. Slant your pencil to get a little darker in the area of the inner ear. Now let's put his blanket on him. He always has the blanket. You couldn't see that there. There you go. Now you can see the drawing. At first you couldn't see the drawing. That's better there. So Yoda's eyes are really dark on the inside. So you're really going to want to go dark, dark, dark on the inside there. And then just shade in his blanket. So you can get the texture of the blanket that he's sitting in or wrapped in. Because there is a texture to the blanket. His face is really smooth, but the blanket is not. And you get the folds of the blanket as well. The shadows are created. Like all over here is really dark. Okay, now I'm going to erase this T that was down his face, because that was just there as a marker to show you going the nose and then the eyes. You really don't need that. Okay. And then there's a really large discoloration between the pinks and the greens on the inside of the ear that I want to establish. I'm only going to establish it using the pencil, not with a crayon. So this is going to be really dark on the inner ear here with the pink. I'm so going to have different values of gray. And then this is more on the outer ear. The skin is more of a solid gray. So I'm just going to use my finger to move the graphite around on the page to get that like skin tone smooth. And this down here is really darker because this is where the light is not really meeting his face. You can also use a sheet of paper or a napkin to smooth the graphite around the paper and really get a nice smooth tone for your design. So you see I'm just taking this napkin and really smoothing out the design. And then I can just add back in the darkest areas that need a line of demarcation where the light's not hitting. He does have some pink on the cheeks too, like the inner ear, almost like a blush. So I can add that in. Again, bring in my smoothing area for both cheeks. Almost like he has on blush. And then what I'm going to do is fix that inner ear area. Okay. All right. Now it looks like this is coming off the page. It's 3D. It's not just the 2D. We've turned it into the 3D. That's really what you want to do for your artwork. And then our background, all the way back here around Yoda, has different variations of gray as well. And in the class, we've talked about how you can gain your variations or shades of gray. Kind of like if we were to have a scale here. You have your darkest of darks to your lightest of lights. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, of course, this is the lightest area here. The number 1 is the whitest, almost like the color of the paper. And if we were to start as dark as we can get this pencil. And your 10. Now, also, too, this is a drawing pencil. This is a 6B. So, this, and I see, I'm talking about here with the 6B here. This is going to be really dark with your graphite. It gets a lot of graphite. You can see kind of how it glistens in the light. Well, you guys can't see it that well. Let me see if I can. There it is. So this, it really just rolls right off rolls right onto the paper, really. And it glistens. But if you're using a 2B, you're not going to be able to get that dark graphite or dark black on the page, because it's just not going to be able to give it to you like a drawing pencil that's a 6B would. And if you just use more pressure, you can get what I'm doing here with the 6B. If you're using a 2B, you can just use a lot of pressure, and then you're going to get a lot of strong color or strong darkness on the paper. So let's try to get a 9. Now that we've got our 10, let's see if we can lighten it up and go to a 9. Again, I'm going to slant the pencil. It's almost laying down on the paper. So this is a 9, but it's really almost like an 8. Let's go a little bit darker. Let me jump up to 2 to just kind of get our darkest of darks in, and then more of a range of colors. I'm in a range of tones. Okay, that's a 3. Let's go a little bit darker for a 4. And remember, you can always use an eraser to lighten up the numbers for your value. All right, let me see. All right, that's our 10. We have our 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 6. And now these are all starting to look the same. So you can see that there's a large deficit. We need to fix that. So we're going to go with our eraser. And let's just lighten up our 3. Our 3 became too dark. Okay, so now we have the 1, the whitest, 2 a little bit darker, 3 a little bit darker, and now our 4. Let's move some of this off of the 4, but leave some of it there. All right, now we have 5. Let's see if we can go a little bit darker on 6. And 7 is a lot darker. Okay. Alright, so now we're getting a range of darker tones, I mean darker values here. But this is still not right. We still have too many. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We really need to work on various variations in our value, because we want it to go to light to darkest. So what we can do is still go back in with our eraser to fix this, so that so it's a smooth transition. So we can lighten up the 4 and the 5 to get 10 various shades of gray. Okay. And then let me add the background in for Yoda as well, so you can see what I'm talking about. How do you add in a background behind a portrait? So I can just add different lights and darks in here. And of course, I'm going to go in with my napkin or smudging tool. And I'm just going to change the background behind Yoda. So I'm going to have variations of gray behind Yoda. Almost like a blurred photograph. So in a photograph of a portrait, it's not just a regular photograph of a landscape. When we're doing portraiture, you usually have it where there is a background option on the camera not a background option, but a portrait option on the camera, where you can focus on the subject that you're taking a picture of and then just blur out the background. So Yoda is our subject for our portrait, and we're going to go ahead and blur in the background. But it'll look as though he's standing outside, but we've gotten variation. We have a smudge, a blur on the background. That's what we're going to do. All right. So you guys can't see this. I'm going to change the lighting so you can see it. But I have a lot of different... Let me do it this way. All right. So I've put graphite on the paper so that you can see, so we can get the background correct. And I'm just going to smudge it. Some is going to be darker than others. Some areas of the background will be darker than others. But it'll be smooth. I don't know why this is here. His ear will be a little lighter over here. And then okay. I'm still adding some darker areas here behind Yoda. So you should do this as well. Make sure you get the background behind Yoda correct, so that your piece has a portraiture style blur on the background as well. Not a lot of lines. Like, we don't want it to just be these lines here. You're going to go ahead and blur them in. Or smooth them in. Or smooth them out. Whatever terminology helps you understand that we're smoothing out the background. So that you can see that it's a portrait of Yoda. And he has a background. He has value. The darkest to lights. This area right here are the darkest areas. Here. And then we have the reflection in his eyes, which are the lighter areas. We have his chin, which is like a 3D, going back in the distance look to it. Where it's his chin going in the distance, really. Or the light does not touch that area. So it has a 3D effect. It's just not flat. That's what we're striving for here with this Yoda. Happy drawing.